friends, welcome to Ivy's Fortress. I'm Ashanta, your reading friend, and today's book we have Granny's Kitchen by Sadé Smith, illustrated by Daley. Now, I have not read this book, and this is actually one of my home library books. I can't remember where we got it from, but I love the illustrations, and when I skimmed through it, wherever I was at, I loved how the pictures were so bright, so colorful, and I could see her emotions on her face. So you'll see that when I read this as well. But we are back outside today, and we have our dogs, Sophie and Aubrey, our poodle babes, down out here as well, so you may see them cross in front of the camera. They're having an interesting little phase in my life, so they are spreading their wings amongst each other and in the household, and we're figuring out boundaries as much as we are figuring out we should listen to mommy. So yeah, we're gonna get reading Granny's Kitchen by Sadé Smith, illustrated by Daley. Let's see what this is about. Shelly Ann lives with her grandmother on the beautiful island of Jamaica, where the sun is always shining and the weather is sweet. One afternoon, Shelly Ann becomes hungry, so she asks Granny for something to eat. Granny tells her, "Wow, you better can cook." I need a Jamaican accent for this. Okay, let's get it together, and teaches Shelly Ann how to cook delicious Jamaican food. As Shelly Ann tries each recipe, everything goes wrong. Her dumplings are burnt, been there. Her saltfish is too salty, right there with you, Shelly Ann. Her plantains are too mushy. Girl, we have lived the same life. Shelly Ann worries she'll never get it right. But when Granny is too tired to cook one morning, Shelly Ann has to find the courage to try one more time and prepare the perfect Jamaican breakfast for her most favorite person in the whole wide world. Accompanied by Daley's vibrant, sun-soaked artwork, Sadé Smith debut picture book, Granny's Kitchen, is the perfect read aloud for budding chefs everywhere. Now, my daughter is definitely a chef, and I see why she pulled this book out, because the pictures are amazing. They do remind me of like a sunshining, picturesque landscape in the kitchen. All right, well, let's get reading. Let's hope my dogs are not too loud. That's why we have the handy dandy mic here. Okay. Granny's Kitchen by Sadé Smith, illustrated by Daley. A Jamaican story of food and family. All right, I'm gonna channel my Jamaican accent real quick. We're gonna try. And if you want to laugh at me, feel free, because this is a first. Shelly Ann lived on the beautiful island of Jamaica, where the sun is always shining and the weather is sweet. Her grandmother had a lot of vegetables and fruit trees growing in her yard and all around her house. She even had a big mango tree. Shelly Ann liked to climb it or lie under it, snacking on mangoes all day long. Shelly Ann loved when her grandmother took her to the market to buy rice, which she would sometimes carry on top of her head. That always made Shelly Ann laugh. Shelly Ann loved her grandmother. In fact, Granny was Shelly Ann's most favorite person in the whole wide world. One afternoon, Shelly Ann was picking vegetables in the garden when the scent of sweet peppers made her hungry. So she went into the house to ask her grandmother for something to eat. "Granny, how do you make dumplings?" Shelly Ann asked. Granny smiled and said, "Wow, you better can cook." And she promised to teach her. Oh, I need some work. Granny pulled out her iron pot and recited the recipe to Shelly Ann from memory. "Need 2 cups of flour with 3/4 of a cup of water," said Granny, "and don't forget the pinch of salt." Shelly Ann rushed to the pantry to get the flour. Her mother watered as she imagined taking a bite of a soft, fluffy dumpling. But when she took them out of the frying pan, they were all black and burnt. "I can't cook," cried Shelly Ann. "Don't worry," said Granny. "Dumplings burn easily if you leave them in the frying pan for too long. You will get it right next time." I burnt mine. I had too much flour in them. I've been there. Dumplings and I don't mix very well, but I'm going to keep trying. And hopefully the next time we talk about dumplings, I'm a pro. The next day, Shelly Ann was playing hopscotch on the sidewalk when she became hungry. So she went inside and asked her grandmother for something to eat. Granny, how do you make ackee? Granny replied, gal, 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 got it, gal, you better can cook. I just imagine her emphasizing the cook part. So, you better can cook. Luckily, Shelly Ann could just reach the bright orange fruit on the tree in Granny's backyard with a little help. Granny pulled out her recipe card and read the instructions to Shelly Ann. Pick a ripe ackee that has split open on its own. Peel the ackee and boil one of the yellow parts in water until tender. Then fry until cooked through. Make sure you not ever eat the seeds. I've never seen an ackee, A-C-K-E-E. I've never seen one of those. The yellow ackee swirled around the pot until it was soft and tender. When Shelly Ann was finishing frying it, she thought the ackee looked a bit like scrambled eggs. But when she took a bite, the ackee was too soft. I can't cook, said Shelly Ann. Don't worry, said Granny. Ackee is easy to overcook. You will get it right next time. Now this face don't look like she's being too empowering. I like this face though. A few days later, Shelly Ann was skipping rope on the porch when her stomach rumbled, so she went to ask her grandmother for something to eat. Granny, how do you make saltfish? Granny smiled and answered, wow, you better can cook. That was my best one. I'm getting better. See, look. Perfect lesson. Granny went to the cupboard to pull out a skillet and to gather the ingredients. Soak the codfish in water for 2 hours and then saute all your vegetables and herbs. Add the saltfish, mix it together, and cook until tender. The scent of spices filled the entire kitchen. Shelly Ann was so excited to try the fish, but when she took a bite, it was too salty. I can't cook, cried Shelly Ann. Don't worry, you will get it right next time, said Granny. The fish needs to soak a long time to make it less salty. Uh-oh, here comes my part. Time to shine. The following morning, Shelly Ann was chasing chickens around the coop. It made her very hungry, so once again she went inside to ask her grandmother for something to eat. Granny, how do you make plantains? Granny grinned. I know, Shelly Ann said with a giggle. Wow, you better can cook. This is bad, but keep trying. Keep trying. Granny laughed as she pulled out a frying pan and a spatula. Pick some ripe plantains, then peel and slice them into pieces. Fry the plantain slices in oil until brown and tender, Granny told Shelly Ann. The slices of plantain popped and sizzled in the oil, and Shelly Ann's mouth watered. But when she took a bite, they were too mushy. I can't cook, cried Shelly Ann. Plantain slices need to be a little bit thinner, said Granny. Don't worry, you will get it right next time. I don't want to learn how to cook anymore, Shelly Ann said. I've tried, and I never get it right. Granny wiped Shelly Ann's tears, then picked up her homemade recipe book and handed it to her granddaughter. If you try and don't succeed, try, and try again. There's a chilly breeze. Oh, there it is. When Shelly Ann woke up the next morning, she noticed that Granny was still sleeping. She was very hungry, so she tiptoed into Granny's bedroom. Granny, whispered Shelly Ann, can you make me something good for breakfast? With a sigh, Granny replied, I am too tired to cook this morning. And she closed her eyes and went back to sleep. Shelly Ann went to the kitchen table and sat down. She opened the recipe book to find old pictures of families and friends from the neighborhood enjoying Granny's prize-winning dumplings. The smiles on all their faces reminded Shelly Ann how much Granny's dumplings bring to everyone. How much joy Granny's dumplings bring to everyone. It must have taken Granny a lot of practice to make the perfect dumplings, Shelly Ann said to herself. Then she became excited. I just have to try, and try again, Shelly Ann said. And don't forget the pinch of salt. Pinch of salt does make a difference. She went out to the yard to gather what she needed. She hauled all the ingredients into the kitchen and pulled out a big Dutch pot and a skillet from the cupboard. She fried the dumpling. She cooked the ackee. She soaked the fish. She sliced the plantain, just like Granny had taught her. I would not be moving ever again in life or out of my bed for at least a day. At least a day, if I ate that much. That's a lot of food. Sorry. Shelly Ann put all of her food onto 2 big plates and tiptoed into Granny's room. I just had to say that. I'm sorry for that distraction. But sometimes reading has distractions because that just broke my imagination circuit and made me realize that is a lot of food. Granny, she whispered, wake up. Granny opened her eyes. Dumplings, ackee, saltfish, and plantains. Granny was delighted. Shelly Ann was very proud of herself for making Granny the perfect breakfast. The dumplings were not burnt, well, maybe a little. The ackee was not too soft, most of it anyway. The saltfish was not too salty, nothing a little pepper couldn't fix. And the plantains were not too mushy. At least the ones in the back weren't. Everything was irie. The end. And they have the recipes in the back in this book. So if you ever have this book, check it out at your local library or purchase it at a bookstore near you. You're going to get some bonus recipes. And if you're anything like me, that's the best part because I have completely bombed making all of these foods right here. So I am grateful that they are stored in a book where I can access whenever. Because books are so much more than just a little story time. They're a full-on experience. And now you got 4 delectable, nutritious meals for your soul. So don't forget the salt, the pinch of salt, it says on the back. So I loved reading this book, and I hope you enjoyed listening to story time as well. It was a fun one today, and I hope we can have another fun one very soon. Well, that's all I have for you friends today. I'll catch you next time. Bye. We truly enjoy sharing our adventures with you here at Ivy's Fortress. If you do too, like our videos and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Well, what are you doing? It is your choice, but we'll race you there. Bye.